when George was 5 months old, he got sick. We thought he had a cold. Tracy took him to a GP. He said, "Oh, I think it's a chest infection, but just in case, take him to A&E. About 5 hours later, a nurse told me that George was going to die.
A virus had destroyed George's pancreas, and with it, his ability to produce insulin.
Without insulin, George's blood is turning to acid. The doctors tried and tried to get a cannula in to give him that insulin, but it kept failing. He's just this fleshy, doughy baby. They can't find a vein. So in the end, a doctor held the needle literally into his neck to get some insulin into George and took us in that ambulance. I'll never forget being sat behind my wife and thinking, how am I going to tell her that her son's not going to make it? A consultant took me aside that first night and said, George might be extremely brain damaged. We don't know how much, if any, of him is going to come back to you. A nurse gave me a vial, a tub with some of his hair in it. And I've never told anyone that I sat by his bed and I begged him to live. I promised him if he'd just fight a little bit that he'd never come back here again. And I begged him, and I begged, and I begged. Fortunately, down to some incredible doctors and nurses, Misha Costa and John Lilly, I'll never forget those names, and George showing some incredible fight. He came back to us. All of him came back to us.
My name is George Stephen Vinicum and I have type 1 diabetes.
He showed incredible fight. He told us he's one of the sickest kids to ever leave intensive care. A consultant sat me and Tracy down and said, I know the last few days have been really, really hard, but the real fight starts when you guys get home. I remember thinking, what are you on about? How can it get any harder than it has? But he was right. George needs insulin 24 hours a day. In those early days, Tracy and I slept 20 hours less in 3 weeks. Up to 60 doses of insulin a day, 40 times we're testing his blood. I mean, it's a 24-hour condition and it's a constant fight. He has an insulin pump which delivers insulin to him 24 hours a day, and it's attached by a little cannula. He has a blood glucose monitor which gives us a guide to his blood sugar, and it alarms if he's going too high or if he's going too low. If he's too high, we need to administer him insulin through his pump. If he's too low, he needs sugar or glucose. If George goes too low, he's in danger of slipping into a coma. If he goes too high, he's back where he was when he was diagnosed, blood turning to acid. Everything affects his blood sugar. The weather, whether he's got a cold or not, if he's nervous, if he's anxious, exercise affects it massively, growth spurts. Me and Tracy will watch him having fun with his friends. You're watching him play, run, laugh. It's magic to watch your kids, this sort of unbridled joy, freedom. But under that, the whole time you're thinking, is he low? Should I test him? Should I? And of course you do. You pull him away from that magical time and life and death are back in the room. It's so hard to articulate what a cure would mean for my family. For Tracy to have that colossal weight lifted from her. And for Ava, that boy is her total hero, for her not to see him frightened or in pain anymore. And for George to run, play, be, without ever worrying of the consequences. No more talk of dying, just really living.
All parents check on their children while they're sleeping to watch their chests rise and fall, hear them breathe, to feel reassured.
All we want is to watch George sleep without wondering if he'll wake again. The advancements made in treatment time 1, even in the time that George has been diagnosed, have been extraordinary. I'm absolutely sure that brilliant people are doing brilliant work that is going to end this condition. But they need money for research. So on the 30th of September 2017, I'm going to run 100 kilometres to raise £100,000 to fund research for a cure for type 1 diabetes. The 30th of September will be 6 years to the day since George was diagnosed. So George is going to run that last kilometre with me. A cure will come, of that I'm absolutely sure, but we need your help. George asked me what he's supposed to do when he grows up. I don't know what to tell him. So what I do say is that the only thing that makes you feel like you belong in this world is when you contribute. Imagine being part of ending a condition which affects the lives of thousands of kids the world over. I'm asking you or your company to tell George that you are with him, and together we can fund a cure to end type 1 diabetes. Imagine that. You can help me deliver a promise I made 6 years ago. We could be part of something extraordinary. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for being with me.